Living paycheck to paycheck was how I rolled for the first few years into adulthood. I was a high school dropout that viewed a job as just a way to pay rent, and that was it. Who cares if I didn't actually enjoy what I was doing? I had the impression that you weren't supposed to like your job, you're just supposed to do it. And because I made the decision to drop out of high school, I came to terms that my only contribution to society would involve the phrase, "Thanks for calling customer service, my name's Vanessa, how can I assist you today?" But despite hating my job, I was damn good at it. Because if I was destined to be chained to a cubicle the rest of my life, then I was at least going to be the best at my role, am I right? Mastering the art of customer service meant that I would always have job security as long as there was a need for someone to take a good verbal beating over the phone. At one point, I was laid off at the same time my then roommate bailed on me, taking half the apartment with him. But I didn't sweat it because I knew that there would be another call center waiting for me in hell, so I'd be good on rent. Or at least that's what I thought. As it turns out, no one was hiring. So in a panic, I applied to literally any job opening that I could find, and eventually I had one call back from a jewelry design company and got a job in product development, which is nothing like customer service. I had no idea what I was doing, but I'm notorious for winging it, so I wasn't worried. The company was owned by a guy named Gary, and I'll never forget the first week on the job, he heard about my falling out that I had with my roommate and offered me a loan so I can pay my rent for that month. He asked me, "How much do you need?" And with hesitation, I said, 500 question mark. And he said, "Okay, I'll take $5 out of your paycheck every week until you pay that back." I wasn't used to this generosity or kindness considering my roommate was petty enough to take a half-filled ketchup bottle with him when he moved out. I wish I was kidding. Come to find out, Gary was born in Berlin, Germany in 1935. When he was 3, Gary and his family, including his mom, aunt, uncle, and grandparents, were forced to flee and ended up traveling for over a year to find a country that would take them in. Eventually, they ended up in Shanghai, China, and while they thought that they were safe, they soon found themselves in a camp during World War II for many years. When they were released in 1948, he had lost both grandparents, but the remaining family traveled to America, eventually settling in New York. Working for Gary was inspiring because it helped me understand the difference between a job versus a career. A job is something that you get just to make money and has minimal impact on your future work life, while a career, on the other hand, provides experience and learning to fuel your future. It's something that takes time, patience, and grit, but the payoff is way more fulfilling in the long run. Gary could have easily victimized himself because of his past circumstances, but instead, he decided to persevere and ultimately build his own business. If this guy survived actual Nazis but was eventually able to live a fulfilling life, then there was no reason for me to compromise on my happiness by working a dead-end job just because I'm a high school dropout. Gary taught me that everyone, with very few exceptions, are capable of making something of themselves regardless of how devastating their past was. The past is in the past for a reason, and every day spent dwelling on what should have been is another day wasted on what could be. So when I see people, sometimes younger than I, complaining that capitalism, discrimination, or the generational trauma of slavery is holding them back from achieving their full potential, I sigh in disappointment. Everything is about perspective, and as cliche as it sounds, if there's a will, there's a way. But when you have an assortment of excuses to fall back on, I find that it's easier to stay where you are because, well, it's comfortable. And I think that's the problem. A lot of people assume that life is supposed to be comfortable or easy or fair, and it's not. Life is what you make it. And if everyone believed that they were victims of their circumstances, then the world would have a lot more weak people. Assuming you live in America, your past, race, skin color, or sexual orientation doesn't hinder your ability to excel in life unless you let it. And for every person that believes otherwise, there are many more that destroy that perception. And if that statement upsets you, it should be an indication of how weak society has become. These days, telling people to believe in themselves and keep going is viewed as problematic, while encouraging people to victimize themselves is considered courageous. If you didn't have the government, safe spaces, or movements to help you, then what would you do? Who would you depend on? Who would save you? Now, I'm not saying that there aren't people who legitimately need help when they're down on their luck, but by and large, most people are perfectly capable of solving their own problems. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it's uncomfortable. And yes, it takes time. But nothing in life that's worth having comes easy, which is why I question the motives of those who stroke the insecurities of others. And that's one of the most troubling things about our current society. Encouraging perseverance and personal responsibility are considered out of touch or incompassionate, while victimhood and instant gratification have become the norm. I actually spoke about this on my podcast Subtweet This with Zuby, an independent rapper, author, and creative entrepreneur. Take a look.
The past is immutable, right? The past is immutable, and the present and the future, while we're always living in the now. So actually in the immediate, the present is the only thing you can change immediately, but then that has an impact on the future. So whatever has happened in your own personal past or in the past, just in history in general, in the history of the UK, the history of the world, it's all immutable. It's all immutable. It's very important to understand it and learn from it, but not to live in it, because then you're just running around looking backwards. And if you're running around looking backwards, you're going to run into a tree. You're going to run into a lamppost. You certainly will not have the brightest future. So focus on the present. In everyone's life, there's always going to be times that are difficult. There's going to be times where you want to give up, times you want to quit, where it feels like it's unfair, someone's attacking you, whatever it is, but you have to just persevere and keep on going. And if you do, then you will always attain some degree of success. How far and how high that success is, that depends on what you're doing and your own personal capabilities, etc. But you'll achieve a degree of success if you really work hard and you just persevere and you just keep on going, whatever it is.
The point that I always try to convey on this channel is, whether you like it or not, victimhood exudes weakness. And the reality is, there will always be predators waiting to prey on the weak, waiting to sell them a solution for a problem that they can already solve on their own. When you put the responsibility of your life in the hands of someone else, it always comes at a price. Whether it's relying on government dependency, collective dependency, or being a slave to the man because you believe your circumstances prevented you from striving for greatness, it always comes at a price. For me, it was my happiness, my confidence, my aspirations, all because I thought I couldn't do something and people kept making excuses for me. And that's not to say you won't face obstacles or naysayers in life. Who cares? That's a part of life. What you should care about is, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to complain? Cry? Wait for a hero to come save you? You're the only hero you can count on. And since working for Gary, I promised myself to never settle for excuses and always strive for bigger and better things, regardless of who or what stands in my way. So YouTube, now that we've acknowledged that life is hard and the past is immutable, what's it going to be? Are you a victim or a victor? If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more content like this. Also, be sure to sign up for my mailing list so we can stay connected. My name is Gothix, and I've got my own life to save. Bye!